Drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes. I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? This is Kendrick Henderson, your sports guy with TFG Sports Media, and this is the TFG Sports Show right here on Facebook and on YouTube. I hope you're having a good evening, and thanks for joining me tonight. Before we jump into this thing, you know the deal, you know the rules. Need you to come in, need you to like, need you to share this, need you to comment, let me know you're watching. Share this to all your social media platforms, and this is the best sports talk show on social media, giving you 30 minutes of it straight with no chasing. So I hope you're having a good week so far. I hope you're having a good evening. This Texas weather is playing up and down with us. It's cold 1 minute, then it's warm. It's supposed to be almost in the 80s the end of the week. Well, in the 80s. So don't put your shorts and your t-shirts up just yet, those in Texas, because we ain't done with this warm weather, and I ain't complaining. Believe me, I'd rather have warm weather than cold. That's just me. So anyway, hope you all having a good Tuesday. So we're going to jump right into this thing. I'm solo right now, but someone may be joining me a few minutes in. But we're going to start off with what we do. We recap the NFL. This is NFL Week 13. And we're going to start off with that team from the Lone Star State. Not that one in South Texas, but the one in North Texas. We're talking Dallas Cowboys. They played on Thursday night. They went to the Big Easy, played the New Orleans Saints. Cowboys was looking to get back on the winning track. They've been kind of fumbling around a little bit. The Saints was looking to get on the winning track as well. Well, the Cowboys went down there and they came back with a W. They ended up beating the Saints 27-17. Wasn't an easy win. Well, it was one of those things. The Cowboys was damned if they did and damned if they do. They were supposed to win that game, but if they didn't win it and blow them out, then people still was going to be critical about that win. So as you can tell, people were still critical. But a win is a win in the NFL. Dak Prescott, the offense didn't look as good. They just was. I thought they was fumbling around, but Dak Prescott was 26-40 for 238 yards. He had one touchdown and one interception. Ezekiel Elliott is not healthy, and he looks it. He was gimpy the whole game. He had 13 carries for 45 yards. Tony Pollard, he's the guy with the juice. He had 7 carries for 71 yards, but 58 of those yards was on that long touchdown run. CeeDee Lamb, he looked pretty good. He caught 7 for 89 yards. He had 122 yards total from scrimmage, and Michael Gallup caught 5 balls for 36 yards and that one touchdown. The way he tiptoed, he tap danced in the corner of the end zone was one of a great catch. He's really good at tiptoeing that sideline and that pylon. So team stats: Dallas total yards 377 for the game. New Orleans 405. Passing again, Dallas 231, New Orleans 252. Rushing, Dallas rushed for 146 yards. New Orleans rushed for 143 yards as well. The Cowboys still messing around on that third down. They were only 2 for 13. They third down. They only converted two of their 13 third down conversions. They got to clean that up. They did clean up the penalties. They only had 5 penalties for 35 yards, and they only had 1 turnover, but they created 4. That was the big thing. The Cowboys defense intercepted Taysom Hill 4 times, 3 times in the final 6.5 minutes of the game. Defensive tackle Carlos Watkins, he took a pick six he picked it off a screen pass and took it back for 6 points, and that made it 27-10 with 2:52 left in the fourth. Now, Trevon Diggs, cornerback, he got his 9th interception. He leads the NFL with interceptions. He got 9. DeMonte Kazee had an interception in the first half, right before halftime. Actually, the Saints were driving, and he intercepted a deflective ball, and he was great. He was able to get his feet down. Cowboys were able to at least get 3 off of that possession and go into halftime. So that was definitely a game changer right there. So Cowboys won 27-17 again. Well, they didn't have Mike McCarthy. They didn't have 3 of their offensive coaches because of COVID. I thought the defense played well. I mean, considering I know it was Taysom Hill. I know the Saints were beat up. They didn't have Alvin Kamara. They didn't have Michael Thomas that hadn't played all year. Uh, uh, Ingram didn't really do much as far as running the football. Taysom Hill gave him some problems because he did run for 101 yards. But he's not a quarterback. He's not that prototypical type quarterback. He kind of he did some things in that shotgun and they ran the pistol and all that. So, but overall, the Cowboys got a win. They won the game. They did what they supposed to did, and that's all that counts in the NFL. Now the Saints lose the 5th straight game for the first time since 2005, and that was the season before Sean Payton took over as coach. So that's the Cowboys Saints recap. Now the Cowboys, they're going to be facing a hot team coming up this Sunday at 12 noon. They go to Washington. The Washington football team, I believe, have won 4 or 5 in a row. And but their Logan Paul, with they tied in, I think they thinking he may have a ACL issue. He may be done for the year. But Taylor Heinicke, he's been moseying along. They've been playing good. Even they without Chase Young, they defensive end, all rookie who was I think the defensive rookie of the year last year. He's out for the season. So the Cowboys got to keep it going. I mean, that moves them to 8-4. They still 2 games up in the NFC East. I mean, I think they should win this division easily, but they got these division games coming up, and it starts on Sunday in Washington at noon on Fox. So let's move to our game last night, Monday Night Football. The Patriots at the Bills, both teams playing for first place in the AFC East. They were not only playing each other, they were playing against the elements. The wind gusts were up to 40 miles per hour. The wind chill was in the mid-20s in Buffalo. The wind, I read a couple of things where the wind was blowing the goalpost over before the game. They even blew a couple of reporters had their work stations. It blew that over. So they were dealing with the elements last night, and the game was low scoring. Patriots win that. Bill Belichick knows how to win those tight games. They won 14-10. The Patriots on a 7-game win streak right now. They've only lost 1 game. Their last loss was against the Cowboys at home, and they've won since. The Patriots improved to 9-4. Buffalo drops to 7-5. Team stats: Patriots 241 total yards. The Bills only had 230. Check this out: the Patriots only threw for 19 yards. 19. Bills threw for 131. But the Patriots rushed 46 times for 222 yards for a 4.8 yard per average. Now, it was a pretty clean game. Both teams only had 1 turnover. Again, New England quarterback Mac Jones was only 2 for 3 for 19 yards. He only threw the ball 3 times. Buffalo's Josh Allen was 15 of 30 for 145 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the Patriots rushing yardage can kind of be a little bit deceiving because New England, they got 64 of that on a Damian Harris touchdown run. So he got the majority of his yardage on that one touchdown. So he had 10 carries for 111 yards and 1 touchdown. Again, Mac Jones only attempted 3 passes. I don't think I had ever seen that ever. New England is 6-0 on the road this season and now leads the AFC East by 2 games. Buffalo have lost their last 4 of the past 7 games. So Buffalo is kind of on the skid. I thought they was going to run away with this division. And New England said, pump your brakes, not so much. We still got Bill Belichick, so we still running things here. The 2 teams meet again in Foxborough the day after Christmas. Now, the Patriots became the first team to attempt just 1 pass in the first half since at least 1978. And Mac Jones became NFL's 3rd quarterback to win 9 games in his rookie season. Roethlisberger and Prescott both did that. He also became the 3rd rookie quarterback to win his first 6 road starts. Roethlisberger and Prescott also did that. So that's our NFL recap for Week 13. I do want to say I got to give a shout out to the Detroit Lions. They got their first win. They beat the Minnesota Vikings 29-27. So they are now 1-10-1. So they will not go the season winless. And not only that, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, he dedicated that game ball to the victims of that horrible Oxford High School shooting that happened in Michigan earlier last week. So Shout out, kudos to the Detroit Lions for getting that first win. Like I say, every game, you ain't guaranteed every game in the NFL. I don't care how bad a team is. Anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. Believe that. So there's not a sure win. Any win in the NFL is tough. So that's our NFL recap for week 13. Now we're going to move to the college football conference championships this weekend. Man, I sat in front of my TV the whole day Saturday. I watched the Big 12. I watched the SEC. Watched the SWAC. I had to record it and watch it later. And I watched a little bit of the Big 10. I knew that was going to get kind of out of hand. But the conference football conference championships game were pretty good. We're going to start off with the Big 12. Baylor, they upset Oklahoma State 21-16. And that was probably one of the greatest. That was a nail biter. I don't think anybody picked Baylor to win to beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State pretty much knocked themselves out of contention for that 4th spot, but it didn't matter anyway at the end of the day because later on Michigan annihilated Iowa. So that loss really didn't hurt Oklahoma. I mean, at the time, it was kind of major because if Michigan would have lost, that could have helped Oklahoma State jump into that Final Four. And also they probably would have needed Cincinnati to lose too, but obviously that didn't happen either. But Baylor safety Jerron McVay knocked the Cowboys' Desmond Jackson out of bounds inches short of the pylon on 4th down to secure the victory. That is how the Baylor Bears were able to win that game. Now, Oklahoma State quarterback didn't put them in a good position. Spencer Sanders threw 4 interceptions. That didn't help the cause, but Oklahoma State stayed the course. They stayed in the game. Baylor never could seem to put them away. Now, Baylor quarterback, I believe he's a freshman, Blake Sharpin, he started the game with 17 straight completions for the Baylor Bears. And I tell you, he looked good. You would never think he never got rattled, but he got nicked up. I think it was in the 2nd quarter. He got nicked up, so he was playing nicked up the rest of the way. But Baylor, they defense, they kept Oklahoma State in check. Head coach for the Baylor, David Aranda, he came in there and he turned his program around. You know, Baylor had some issues. Last year they went 2-7. Matt Rule, who ended up going to Carolina, came in after all the Art Briles issues with the sexual assault and players and all that. So it was a cloud hanging over that Baylor Bears football program. But David Aranda seems like he has gotten it turned around. He's gotten that program turned around. So both teams, Baylor finished at 11-2, and they won their 3rd straight Big 12 title. And Oklahoma State finishes at 11-2. And they both going to be on bowl games. Don't know what those are. They may have already come out, but they both will be playing in a bowl game. So that was the Big 12 championship recap. Now, the SEC championship, that's the game everybody was talking about. Georgia, number 1, been number 1 pretty much all year, versus number 3, Alabama. And I'll be honest to tell you, I didn't think Alabama had a shot. I thought Georgia was going to dominate this game, and this was going to be a runaway. Boy, was I wrong. Quarterback Bryce Young for Alabama. After that hard-fought victory against Auburn, he came in here and he was ready to go. Georgia ended up winning. Alabama ended up winning this game 41-24, and it probably really wasn't that close. Quarterback Bryce Young for Bama was 20 for 44, 421 yards, 3 touchdowns. Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett was 29 for 48 for 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And Alabama, Mr. Everything wide receiver Jamison Williams. We didn't have him ejected this game. He caught 7 balls for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's electrifying at that position. And Georgia tight end Brock Bowers, he caught 10 balls for 139 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Bama's some bad news for Bama. The wide receiver John Mechie, III, he went out with an injury, didn't play the second half. Possible torn ACL. I've been looking. They hadn't confirmed it, but it looks like he did tear his ACL. He will not be available for the college football playoff game. So he is done for the year. So that is a shot. That's a shot against the Alabama offense. This would be Alabama's 7th appearance in the college football playoff. The Bulldogs defense at prior to this game, Georgia Bulldogs defense was only allowing 6.9 points per game. Alabama hung 41 up on them. I did see something about Georgia that kind of has me concerned. That back end, that secondary. I don't think that secondary is as good as it is been made out to be. Because Bama, Bryce Young, he carved them up. So that could be some cause for concern for Georgia going into their college football playoff matchup. So that was the game that everybody was looking at. So, and when speaking of that, I'm waiting on my man Kennard Stewart. Whenever you ready, Tyler, whenever he's ready to come in, bring him in. So he can give me his assessment of this SEC championship game. So I see you. Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. This is Kennard Vernon Stewart. This is Vernon Speaks Sports with Auburn Football. Glad you could join me, brother. You came in at the right time. We're talking about this SEC championship game. Talk to me, man. Give me your assessment of it. What did you think?
Well, I told people all week about Alabama versus Georgia. A lot of people thought I was crazy, but I actually picked Alabama to beat Georgia by 10 points or more because of the dynamics of Alabama's offense. You know, Georgia is the type of team defensively. If you look at all the teams that they played against, they didn't really play against an elite quarterback. They didn't really play against an elite set of wide receivers like Jamison Williams and Michie and those guys that were able to spread the field around. With Alabama, I really don't care how good you are on defense. If you're not fast, if you're not versatile in the secondary, then this type of team will eat you up. Now, the reason why Auburn was so successful is because although statistically Auburn doesn't have an elite defense, but they're very versatile on defense. They can move guys around to play different positions, to cover different parts of the field, but Georgia just can't do that. Georgia will be successful against the traditional offenses, but they will not be successful against offenses like Alabama. I'm actually kind of nervous about, well, not nervous, but kind of concerned as to how Georgia's even going to handle Michigan because they have a good defense, a good traditional defense that's based on power and, you know, skill at the line of scrimmage. But after you get past the line of scrimmage, if you can't get pressure on the quarterback, that's when Georgia gets in trouble.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't shocked at all that Alabama beat Georgia. I was kind of shocked that they beat them as bad as they did, but I figured it would be a double-digit game.
What about the injury to John Mechie III? How will you think that affects Alabama offensively?
As long as Jamison Williams is not hurt, Alabama will be okay. If I'm an Alabama fan, I don't want an Alabama follower. I don't want any of my players to be hurt, but if one is going to be hurt, it doesn't need to be Jamison Williams.
Gotcha. I agree. I totally agree with you. And we're going to talk about the semifinals matchup, but I'm going to run through the other conference championship scores real quick. Big Ten championship, obviously Michigan, they hammered Iowa 42-3. In the American, the AAC championship, Cincinnati, it was kind of, nip and tuck there in the first half, but they ended up getting away from Houston 35-20 in the AAC championship. So here's the matchups for the CFP. We got Bama versus Cincinnati, Michigan versus Georgia. Bama number 1, Michigan number 2, Georgia number 3, Cincinnati number 4. All right, Kennard, what you think? Talk to me about these matchups. What you think?
About what game now?
The college football playoff semifinal matchups. Bama versus Cincinnati, and Georgia and Michigan.
Somehow I'm getting a little static on your end. I couldn't understand the question.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hold on a second.
Okay. I can hear you. You there, Kennard?
I'm here. I'm getting some static. I don't know whether it's me or whether it's you.
No, I can hear you fine. You can't hear me at all. Maybe go back out and try to come back in. See if that helps. I can hear you fine. You can't hear me at all?
Yeah, you probably can hear me, but for some reason I can't hear you.
Okay, go back out and come. Okay, he can't hear me. Okay. So we were talking about, we'll come back to that. Hopefully, Kennard can come back and he can hear me. So we're gonna stay with that. But I want to talk about the SWAC championship. I want to talk about that. Jackson State, Coach Prime. And we know Coach Prime, he does everything big. That SWAC championship was big. They had over 60,000 spectators at Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson State did what they were supposed to do. They beat Prairie View 27-10. They finished the season 11-1, 8-0 in the conference. This is Jackson State's first conference championship since 2007 and a first 11-win season in school history. Now, Jackson State clinches a berth in the Cricket Celebration Bowl, which is the de facto historically black college national championship game, and they will face South Carolina State December 18th at noon at ABC at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Can you hear me, Kennard?
Yeah, I can actually. I'm sorry about that. I was receiving a little bit of static. I'm now with you on the Jackson State
Yeah. We're gonna go back. We're gonna rewind. Let's go back to the college football playoff semifinals. We got Bama versus Cincinnati, and we got Georgia against Michigan. Your thoughts on both those matchups?
You know, I really like the matchup. I think this is a really nice opportunity for the AAC conference 2 years in a row to face an SEC team that, you know, wins, you know, that are their upper tier. Cincinnati takes on Alabama. I think Cincinnati is going to give that game pretty much all that they can. The only thing they have to be concerned about is Nick Saban is going to have his players prepared and is going to have his players in a position to where they're going to do all that they can to solidify their stance as one of the best college football teams in recent history. Michigan, I'm just, you know, with Michigan and Georgia, I'm just really proud of Harbaugh. You know,
me too.
I'm really glad that he finally got over the hump.
Yeah,
he finally got over the hump with beating Ohio State, and I think this could be a huge opportunity for Harbaugh to get a win against a Georgia team that I'm not going to say is beatable, but they are vulnerable in spots. Especially, we didn't talk about this as far as the SEC championship game, but one of the telling factors is Georgia doesn't have an elite quarterback. And you're
right. I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to talk about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. The situation with Georgia is when the game was 10-0. You know, you got a walk-on quarterback. He's okay at that point, but when you get in a position both mentally and physically, and with that, you know, mentality of being a walk-on quarterback, and now you got to duke it out with a 5-star recruit out of California, go back and forth. You can't tell me that the psyche starts to kind of get a little shaken at that point. And the mistake starts to happen. What a lot of folks don't get is that quarterback threw 2 very crucial interceptions in that game that really changed the course of that game. You get an elite quarterback for Georgia, and you might have a more stable outcome. So I think what's going to be Georgia's Achilles heel in this playoff is, how does Stetson Bennett IV play? If he doesn't play at an elite level, then that cancels out all the recruiting efforts that Georgia has made to get themselves to this point.
Now, what's the status on the big time Georgia's other quarterback? What's his name?
I'm not. I've talked to a lot of people that follow Georgia. They're talking about his mobility and his that Stetson Bennett just straight out beat him for the job.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, I was wondering. Okay,
but I still don't. It's still kind of baffling to me how, you know, you don't try out the 5-star recruit who is battle tested and who can clearly play ball, especially when Stetson Bennett. I mean, I think he's done a marvelous job of, kind of feeding into the feel good story. Right. But I think Kirby Smart's got to get away from that. He's got to give. I can't think of the guy's name now.
I can't think of it.
You gotta give a chance at least for him to hit that big stage and give themselves a chance in this playoff.
Yeah. So okay. So we're gonna do our prediction right quick, and then we're gonna move on to our other topic. I think Alabama will beat Cincinnati. I think it's a feel good story. I think Cincinnati. I'm not saying they're not talented, but I think they gonna run into the buzzsaw. And the Cinderella story for Cincinnati is going down on December 31st. That's a wrap for them. Now this Georgia-Michigan game, this might be a little bit interesting. I was, Georgia's back end isn't as good as I thought it was. They secondary, Alabama carved them up personally. And I think this game's going to be nip and tuck just for what you just talked about at the quarterback position. I think Bennett showed me that I don't know if he's ready for those big lights like that. So I think that was going to be nip and tuck, but I give Georgia defense the edge just by a slight margin. What you think?
With the Alabama and Cincinnati game, I never want to discount a team's ability just because of what conference they're in. But I've watched Alabama all year, and they will put up a lot of points. And I just don't think with Alabama's elite defense that Cincinnati will be able to keep up. I'm talking about a 45 to maybe 14 game here. It's going to look good for about a quarter or so. Mm-hmm. But I don't care what anyone says. The ACC does not have the ability to compete week in and week out with these elite teams in the SEC. So I just don't. I think they are going to get their shot at being in the playoffs, and it's not going to go well for them. Right. Now, since Michigan and Georgia, I tell you what, if Georgia's defensive line I'll say if Georgia's front eight is not able to make the impact that they've made prior to the Alabama game, this could be a 2 straight losses for Georgia. I think Michigan is really feeling where their program is going. Harbaugh has definitely worked hard to get to the point that this program is at, and I think they're going to come in very electrified and very inspired to beat a pretty good Georgia team. Now, what I want you to do, we don't have to do this now. What I want you to do is look at Georgia's schedule. Look at who they've played all year. There hasn't been any teams that scared them. There hasn't been any teams that have stretched them out until they played Alabama. And what happened? They all but got blown out.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to go and say, I've been talking with a couple of other guys. I don't think Georgia will beat Michigan. I think you're going to have an Alabama versus Michigan championship game.
You heard it. Hey, TFG sports audience. Vernon Speak Sports said it. It's going to be Alabama and Michigan. And you know what? I think it's going to be a rematch, Alabama, Georgia. So we go see who wins out. And
Georgia's going to lose again.
I'm not picking Alabama to beat them again. I agree.
Because until you fix the quarterback situation, I don't care what. If you get back, that's great. All you're doing is setting yourself up to lose in a championship game against Alabama again.
Yeah. So that's our prediction. So we go. That's December 31st, both those semifinal games. So we're gonna prepare for that. Now, our last topic, real quick. We're talking about coaches, the movings and goings. Kennard, I just want to get your take on this. I'm just gonna name all. It's been a lot of coaching movement. LSU, Brian Kelly. Florida, Billy Napier. USC, Lincoln Riley. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman. Oklahoma, Brent Venables. Miami, just today. Yesterday, I believe, Mario Cristobal. Virginia Tech, Brent Pride. TCU, Sonny Dykes. Washington, Kalen DeBoer. Washington State, Jake Dicker. Texas Tech, Joey McGuire. SMU, Rhett Lashley. And we got
Rhett Lashley to SMU?
Yeah, Rhett Lashley is at SMU. I guess he's with SMU. But the only 2 openers now is Virginia and Oregon. Well, obviously, Oregon is open now. And then there's rumors that Chip Kelly may be heading back to Oregon. So what's your thoughts on all these new coaching hires? And one of the glaring omissions for me is the lack of people of color being hired as in college football as far as head coaching jobs.
Well, one, I'm actually shocked at Rhett Lashley. Rhett Lashley, former offensive coordinator at Auburn under Gus Malzahn, and he's was actually a good coach there, but Gus Malzahn didn't allow him to do what he needed to do. That shocks me. The Napier hire at Florida, that's not going to end too well. Mario Cristobal to Miami makes absolute sense. I think that's going to be a nice deal for them as Miami tries to get themselves in a nice state of relevance. Brent Venables to Oklahoma is going to be the most impactful hire.
I agree. I agree.
I think that's going to be the most impactful hire. This is a very good coach. This is a coach that has a lot of integrity, that has a lot of stake in the recruiting grounds, and that's going to be really tough for the SEC once Oklahoma joins that conference. You know, I just the Brian Kelly hire at LSU is baffling to me, because not the fact that he was hired, but the fact that they threw so much money at him.
They threw a lot of money at him.
I mean, this guy, and I'm not.
And Lincoln Riley too. USC
yeah.
threw a lot of money at him.
Now I'll tell you why I think Lincoln Riley probably halfway makes sense, but the Brian Kelly situation, this guy is 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You give him a 10-year contract. I'm not trying to age shame nobody.
Right.
But you give this man this contract in a situation where, damn, do you really think you're going to have that much impact? I understand you had some success at Notre Dame, but hell, who can't have success at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
A 10-win, 11-win season at Notre Dame when you can basically pick and choose your schedule.
Right.
You can moonlight it in the ACC as you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Lincoln Riley to USC, especially with Mario Cristobal leaving Oregon, I think that's going to work out well for them.
Yeah.
Because something had to give in the Pac-12 to where the USC would have an opportunity to regain their status in that conference.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been a bunch of coaching movements. Again, we still got openings at Virginia and Oregon, as far as the two big name schools, and there's some other openings around the country. I just would like to see college football do a better job of putting people of color in those positions, because we all know that most college football Division I rosters, probably most of the time, they're 65% Black or African American.
And the only problem with that, I think Notre Dame, they hired a African American coach.
Yeah, they promoted him. He was the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, the only problem with that, and in a lot of situations, and we have to be real about this, they don't give those guys a fair chance.
That's true too.
They put these guys in these positions like Kevin Sumlin. Kevin Sumlin's result is about the same as what Jimbo Fisher is doing. But they're continuing to give him chance after chance after chance, and hoping something happens. I'm not saying, and a lot of times you got to think about this: are the brothers really applying?
Yeah, that's the point. But I mean, my thing is, are they going out to recruit? And there's a lot of up and coming. What about some of these HBCU coaches? My thing is, are you going out recruiting? It's a lot of African American men that's
I really like what a lot of people are not really taking a lot of stock or really taking value in what Deion Sanders has done for the scope of African Americans' presence in college football.
Exactly.
Now he one thing about that's really making him even more credible is that he's getting a high level result. Now you can talk all the trash you want. You can prime time and it must be the money all you want. But if you don't get the result, then it's a different story. This man is on commercials with Nick Saban. This man is putting himself in a position to where he is the ambassador for not only HBCUs, but just what it means to be an African American in the college football landscape. And I think you will see the result thereof in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So there you have it. Well, we're down to our final thoughts, my man Kennard, my family. Give me what you got. Your final thoughts.
Well, the NFL, I don't really watch it. I wish the Cowboys well. They're supposed to be back. We'll see what they're gonna do. I think college football. The conference championship showed me everything I needed to see about Georgia. Because sometimes I have to think like, damn, am I crazy? But when I saw how they performed against Alabama, it made sense. They're not ready for the elite modern, defending the elite modern offenses. Cincinnati is not going to fare well against Alabama for sure. And when we talk about coaching changes, I think the most impactful coaching change to me is going to be Brent Venables at Oklahoma. I think he's in a great situation, a great recruiting situation. He can actually bring a defensive element to a team that hasn't been traditionally, at least up to this point, defensive powerhouse, to team that up with the powerhouse offense they have, I think that will be great. I'm looking at also, as my final last thought, I'm really looking forward to seeing an Alabama versus Michigan college football playoff championship.
Okay. Y'all heard it. Vernon Speak Sports said Alabama, Michigan. He's looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a rematch of Alabama, Georgia, but we'll see who wins all that. My final thoughts is I want to pay homage really quick to a trailblazer and another icon that was inducted long overdue to the Baseball Hall of Fame a couple of days ago, the late great Buck O'Neil, who passed away in 2006, I believe, at 96. He was finally inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He played in the Negro Leagues the majority of his career. He became the first African-American manager in Major League Baseball once his playing days was over. So Cooperstown has finally done the correct thing. They finally acknowledged that the Negro Leagues, though their stats, has been moved to Major League Baseball and has been recognized as a true professional league. So, kudos, much respect, rest in peace, Mr. Buck O'Neil. You're not here to see it, but we pay homage to you for the doors you open for a lot of Black players to play at the next level. So that is my final thoughts for tonight. This has been TFG Sports Media. You've been listening to my man, Vernon Speak Sports. You can find him on YouTube. Make sure you go to his channel and subscribe. You know who I am. I'm Kendrick Henderson with TFG Sports, TFG Sports Media, right here on Facebook and YouTube. So until next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., we out. Peace.
Yes, sir.
That money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa. I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming.